The only reason why they would have any interest in not negotiating and coming to the table with good intentions is because they have leverage.
When you say China's playing the long game, the United States is playing the long game. How long until you think we blow up that son of a bitch over there and make our Strait of the United States Strait of Hormuz? But I think that we should have gone in there and taken control over that strait under the guise of international right of passage.
I think diplomacy is always the better route.
That's what scares me more is countries that are unhinged like Iran using real chemical warfare.
I think it's important to, as we shift gears to talk about the Hanta virus, it's really, really important to understand that the Hanta virus is not the coronavirus. So I think that it's important for us as a global society to realize that this isn't another pandemic that's coming down the pike. We need to become educated about how these things spread, and then also to what degree of fear we should have that's healthy.
I think that this just shows the importance of having proper borders. The data overwhelmingly suggests that left-leaning political beliefs commit most of the political violence. It's documented. It's well documented, Len. I think term limits is a very viable solution to a lot of this madness. LA used to be like something cool. Like it used to be something that you could be proud of in the United States. And now it's just the cesspool.
It's one thing to have a policy to reduce homelessness. It's another thing to have policies that create accountability systems for the institutions that come in and claim that they're going to reduce homelessness unless somebody comes in with some specific operational talent and organizational effectiveness as an operator. That problem's not going to go away.
We need to get people more engaged again and less distracted, right? And I think it starts in the home. So a lot of parents need to be more responsible for their kids, and they need to be proactive about what their kids are learning, how their kids are reacting in the world, all the way down to the simplest thing as making sure your kids know how to take care of themselves when they come to you and they say you're bored.
So if you have the ability to speak to other people in a way that's influential, use your voice and learn how to exert power and authority so that you can take your country back and see a country that you want to live in. So if this is a world that you don't want to see, start doing something about it right now.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
The thing that really concerns me amongst anything now that we're kind of watching it and we've seen it now, and I know that like the time is ticking, the clock's ticking, is really the impact now that we see with Iran not just cooperating at all. And what I mean by that is you see the pushback, right? Like the constant pushback and the ceasefires hanging in the balance. And there's this really like prominent guy, like you see all these prediction, like there's a prominent guy that's on, he was just on another popular podcast and he was predicting, you know what I'm talking about, right? And he said it. So it's like all these things that are going on. But I think the most important thing is that people really just kind of take a look at the bigger picture. And I know, Len, you want to talk about that today. And I think that's also a big picture is this impacts Russia and China a great deal. And I know that we really haven't really talked about that openly because to me, it's kind of there, but, I wonder, the biggest thing that I wonder, Len, when you brought this up is I wonder how long they will not be aggressive about it. And what I mean by that is that when will they show their cards? Because up until this point, we know that they need that oil. We know they're buying that oil. We know that it's disrupted them, mostly China, more so than anything. But at the same time, no one's really, I don't think Russia can really retaliate because they're busy with Ukraine. And they're using that obviously to generate economy, to generate, income, which is brilliant, by the way, as a political, on a statesman thing. That's brilliant. I'm not trying to say Putin is like a genius or anything, but his moves warrant the comment that it was genius for him to do that. I think if you know what's going on, you know what's going on. But China is an interesting thing because they're always pretty docile with that kind of stuff. But how long until they make an outward reaction about it, do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, because while Iran has a large percentage of its oil going to China, only about 20% of the oil coming from of their supplies come from Iran. And so they have a lot of reserves. So I think there's enough reserves to last a few months, as long as they go into, more stringent austerity measures. And with the regime like China, they have more control over who does what and how people move around, because it's, state controlled. So the issue, though, is that as China is starting to get more power and more influence, because as long as this war keeps going on, my opinion, I believe that America starts to look more and more like the bad guy. So you started off the conversation by talking about the fact that Iran is not participating. And so if people naturally act out of their own best interest, the only reason why they would have any interest in not negotiating and coming to the table with good intentions is because they have leverage. And the leverage that Iran has over the United States is that as long as these ships are stuck there, Iran has a plausible explanation. They can say, look, we didn't start this war. Israel and the United States started this war, but we are going to fight for our very survival, our economic survival, and this land mass belongs to us, and we're going to make sure that we continue to struggle to fight for it, because the United States, they're making unnecessary demands. They came last time in bad faith, and each time they came, something bad happened to us, and so we can't trust them anymore. So the longer this war goes on, or as long as, like right now, there's not a lot of kinetic warfare going on at this moment, but Iran has all of the leverage, because the longer it goes on, they know that Trump is going to become less and less popular amongst the people because gas prices are going up. So they also know, because they feel like they understand the psychology of the president, that they hold all the cards. So while President Trump is saying one thing, like he'll say one week, hey, they're negotiating because they see no way out. And then he'll say, well, they're not listening to our demands. And he's just flip-flopping back and forth. I don't believe Iran has changed its perspective at all. Once they realized they had leverage, they don't have any incentive to let up now. And so it's going to be now this classic game of chicken, is who's going to turn the opposite way. And I don't think the United States has much leverage. Over time, it's going to get worse and worse for us.
Well, the interesting thing, though, now is that you saw, obviously France sent their only aircraft carrier there, but someone else just sent a destroyer there. Who was it? Was it the UK or somebody else? Somebody just committed a Navy vessel. So I can see where it can look that way and it can feel that way. But I do also see the fact that you see countries in that area committing resources now. Mm-hmm. So they understand that and what that means is, to me, what that signal means, Len, is that they acknowledge that whether or not Iran was neutralized, I think is a better term. I don't think we attacked them. I don't think obviously we attacked them. The action was that, but I don't think it was I don't think this is as a preemptive of a strike as a lot of, as often as it's framed to be. And I don't think we started anything with them. I think it was already there. And remember, and this is the thing that I think is slimy about it, though. Okay, is the fact that this was a Israeli-led war backed by the U.S., meaning Israeli-led U.S. kind of in the background. But it's kind of shit that if you're in the United States, at least the optics are not shifted that way. The optics have completely shifted as, oh, this is all on the US now. And I don't think that that's fair to frame it that way, because it isn't really. It really isn't. I think that it's necessary. It obviously is. I think it is very necessary. But I also do think at the same time, if people come out with the theory, because, and this is interesting, Len, and I just thought of this. If the theory is that the United States needs it because of oil, right? They don't want China to have that oil, or the Brexit thing, right? With BRICS, and, you know, they started this war, and because the United States with the petrodollar and all of that theory behind it. And I understand that. Well, if that was the case, how is that justified? I just don't understand that. If that's the case, then no one really started a war, because no one's paying attention to Russia. No one's paying attention to Russia. The fact it's just all forgiven. Like, no one cares that Russia started a war with Ukraine, right? No one cares about that anymore. And if it was, well, Russia and China are mad, and they started BRICS, and they started all this because the U.S. locked Russia out of the SWIFT program, right? And they said they weren't going to do that. Well, I'm sorry, but Russia attacked Ukraine. That's why they got locked out of the SWIFT program. Mm-hmm. Where is that now? Nobody's crying about that anymore. So I think that it could be mishmashed in so many different ways, and people keep forgetting about that, well, America started this. Well, because America had to do this with Iran because they locked Russia out, and Russia's mad, and now China's mad, and well, they were doing this crap before, but everybody forgets that Russia attacked Ukraine. And that's why they were locked out of SWIFT. So I see that, but at the same time, I think what's happening here, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Len, is I don't think Iran has any leverage. I just think that it's being very careful right now, and everybody's being very careful right now. And I think what's happening is you have de facto, power grabs happening right now. You have these governments, these but you have these de facto governments that are popping up because power was decentralized in Iran. So now you have all these people that are claiming that they're authority, but they're really not, because no one's really there that's leading it, right? I mean, no one really is there. So, of course, and the place was lined with mines, and it's very dangerous, and no one wants to get a ship blown up in the Strait. Number one, they don't want their ship blown up. Number two, no one wants that to go up, because if one ship gets blown up, then it's chaos for everybody. What's interesting right now is oil is still a little bit below 100. It's almost there. It's like 98. But what's interesting is the markets are up. So oil's up, and the markets are up, and gold's up. So everything's up. So that's where you read the market a little bit, Len, you go, gosh, this is such a confusing area to scan right now. But I'll throw it back over to you, because I see where you're coming from, but I don't see it that maniacal, I guess, or maybe not maniacal. I don't see it that pessimistically, because I think that countries in that area know they're screwed, whether U.S. acted in Iran or not. I think they know now they were screwed. And if China really was concerned and is so big and bad, how could they let that happen like that? It just doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think anybody really is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm ignorant to something. And I'm sorry, Len, I said I was going to throw it over to you, but I don't see where I don't see the connected dots there. I really don't. I don't see that theory playing out. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
Okay, so when I said that Iran has the leverage, you kind of touched on one of the reasons why they have leverage. So there are dozens and to hundreds of ships that are stuck over in the Strait of Hormuz. So if one ship goes, if they blow up because of a mine or if they get shot, then it halts movement in that entire region. Now, while that halting of the movement hurts Iran, it hurts the United States more, because the United States has been seen as the aggressor in this whole military conflict, even though Israel was the one that really started everything and brought us in with them. And so, touching on your Russia point really quickly before it slips my mind, over time, things start to lose its potency. There was when Russia, when they went after Ukraine, got to remember that was 4 years ago, and there was talk all around the world about it. And there was even conversations about NATO because the Ukraine wanted to be part of NATO, and all the people were like, no, we don't want any of that smoke with Russia because they're a nuclear power. And so we will support you. We want you to, fight the good fight, but you're not going to become part of NATO because now that creates because Putin would definitely see that as an act of aggression. And now we're looking at the brink of World War III. So it was a very big deal. Now, over time, it has become less of a deal because it doesn't look like Putin's going to attack Poland. He primarily wants Ukraine and, Crimea and all of this, that area over there. But it's not really impacting a lot of the European nations like they were once concerned. So because of that, that's kind of an isolated issue because it was 4 years ago. Now what you're looking at is you have a whole another group of people that are involved. You've got all of the Middle Eastern countries. And because so with Russia in this specific war, they benefit because as oil prices go up, more people are spending more money. They have an internal system because they were knocked out of, with all of the sanctions and everything. So they've been benefiting financially from this. And so with China, you have the connective pieces here is that with China is saying, look, we're the pragmatic ones. We're trying to tell the United States to back off, to stand down. Let's have diplomacy. And there have been conversations between the United States and Iran, but those talks have fallen on deaf ears. So as people start to see their oil prices go up, they're starting to look at China and say, you know what, that might be a more viable partner than the United States. So China is just sitting back, playing the long game because that's their philosophy. They're not looking to do anything short term. Whereas Trump, on the other hand, and the Republican Party, on the other hand, is looking at midterms coming up in November. So if everything's going on right now and this war is going on in November, there could be some major challenges. However, from your perspective, some great developments have happened as it relates to this gerrymandering, redistricting saga that's going on in the United States. So we can finish up the Iran part, but I think it ties over beautifully into the redistricting conversation, considering the fact that Republicans stand to win a lot of seats because they can start drawing things in their favor.
What is so hilarious to me is when you say China's playing the long game, the United States is playing the long game. How long until you think we blow up that son of a bitch over there and make our Strait of the United States Strait of Hormuz? Like how long do you think before we ink a deal with those Middle Eastern countries over there and we say, hey, by the way, guys, we're going to build a brand new strait. See, the thing is we did it with the Panama Canal. What makes you think we're not going to do the same thing over there?
So different.
What makes you think we're not going to do that? Like, how long until that happens, Len? And then all of a sudden, it's the Strait of the United States of America. Like, when, like, it's going to happen. I mean, the China's playing the long game.
Well, look, we already bet a DoorDash on the fact that this is going to go on for more than 90 days.
But there's no more war, though. The war's over. The president of the United States came out and said the war was over.
The war is not over, bro. Stop it. You know that it's not over.
And then the other thing about it is like, oh, we're going to buy, like, I get that whole thing, and we're going to buy from Chinese and all that stuff. There's no way, because they don't operate on a free market. They don't operate on any type of business model that encourages economic scale or business scale the way that a free market system allows a company to scale. Private markets, private capital, all of those things. It just would never survive in that environment. It's toast. It's dead on arrival. But the most telling thing, I think, though, is that when they sit back like that and they we're just gonna play diplomacy and all those things. And you said, oh, we're not worried anymore because Russia's not going to invade Poland or anything like that until he does.
He hasn't.
But right. But that was the same thing they did with Hitler until he did. Right. Oh, it's okay. He's fine. And that's what I mean. France fell in 15 minutes. France would fall right now in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, France would be done for it right now. And here's the reality. Everyone wants to always take that approach of, oh, we're going to wait and let the aggressor continue to be the aggressor until they are the aggressor. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't see it that way. I'm not actually not sorry about it. I'm sorry for those who think that it's that way, Len, because how long do we let them sit there and play this game?
All right. I got a question for you.
But you know what I mean? Like, how long until until it becomes a problem? Because honestly, seriously, think about it for a second. What is to stop Poland from getting invaded or Russia from completely invading Ukraine? Like, I don't know why we don't think that's going to happen. Why was it a concern a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And that was the justification for the buildup, right? And the military action and the spending, because we need to protect against that. And it's not a concern anymore. When was Iran never not going to be a concern? But anyways, I just don't see it that. What is the question, then? I'm dying to answer it. I know what it is.
Snap my fingers. You're the president.
Yes.
What would you do right now with regard to Russia? And what would you do with regard to Iran?
The Russia thing's, the situation is very tight. And the reason why is because if you try to do anything diplomatic with Russia, for some reason, the left or the right thinks you're a spy. And I don't know if that's just you know what I'm saying? Like, sure. as soon as you talk to Putin, oh, you love Putin and he's a terrorist, right?
Yep.
But no one really wants to admit that the real terrorists were sitting in Iran, right? So if for me, I would go back to somehow, some way creating economic and political alliances with Russia. I would not make Russia my enemy. I would absolutely 100% make sure that Russia was my strongest ally.
You'd make them your strongest ally.
100%. That'd make Russia my strongest ally. Because Russia understands culturally. Russia has been there for a long time. They have roots. They have the largest landmass. They're crazy. And above all else, Russia has like that spirit of country. Like they like, you know what I mean? Like they will die. Russians will die for their country. Russians are spirited about their country. They're not forced to love their country. Like Chinese people are forced to love their country. And I'm sorry if this offends any Chinese people. I'm not trying to, but from an outside in looking at least the CCP, it forces people to respect. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't salute in China, you could be jailed, right? Or something could happen to you. If you don't salute in America, for crying out loud, you go burn a flag in the middle of the street and create it. I mean, look at that. I mean, you can create treason in a lot of regards and be forgiven.
All right.
In America, right? I mean, I'm sure some would argue that Trump committed treason, right? I'm sure some would say that he did.
So how would you handle Iran? What would you do? You're president.
Well, here's the reality behind Iran. I mean, for me, I would have, and I don't know if this already happened yet. And again, I can't armchair quarterback it.
Sure.
I mean, absolutely not. I mean, Iran has proven again and again and again, they've violated treaties. They've lied about their nuclear capabilities. They've enriched in uranium above what could be used for, public stuff, for civil engineering installations. Why would a country feel like they need to have a nuclear weapon if they're not under threat by anybody? Who's threatening to take their land from them? Like up until this moment, who was threatening to take Iran's sovereignty away from them? Who was doing that? Besides its own leaders who hijacked the country in 1978, who was threatening to go and take their land? And in fact, America hasn't even threatened to take their land. So who's threatening? And we don't even want their oil. I mean, I know there's all this hubbub about it, but we got Venezuela, baby. We don't need Iran. That's dirty over there. That's too much conflict. So who was threatening to take their sovereignty away? We just don't want them to have a nuclear program.
Who's threatened to take the United States sovereignty away? We have a nuclear program. So how do you judge their criteria differently than ours?
Well, Iran has, because if you allow a crazy person with a gun in a room, he could kill somebody. So Iran essentially was the crazy person in the room. Why would we allow that crazy person to get the gun?
It's all narrative, though. I mean, now I'm not
right.
trying.
I mean, but right, because look, if it I don't know, if it smells, if you get a scan and the scan comes up, to me, it's just weird. Like if you get a scan and the scan comes up questionable, right? It's remarkable, right? Your scan comes up remarkable, which means something there to look at. And the doctor says, look, we should have this further scanned because it could be nefarious, but we don't think it is. Right. And we monitor it. And then the doctor monitors it. And then all of a sudden the doctor monitors it until it becomes too nefarious. And then action must be taken. Or the doctor did a further scan and says, we need to deal with it now. So since 1978, we've been scanning Iran. And then all of a sudden we got to this point, and guess what? Action got taken because it became too nefarious to wait. The doctor had to come in and incise.
Okay. So what would you do? So are you?
What would I do?
Yeah. I'm trying to get an idea of
in the current situation. Like if I was
right now,
if I'm handed the current situation, like Trump is handed, yes. I would probably almost do exactly the same thing, except I would put more emphasis on the fact that I would have went in immediately and preemptive strike to control of the strait. And I don't know if that's possible or if it was done, but my immediate action would have been to take in complete control of the Strait of Hormuz, first and foremost, preemptively. And then from there, taken out all of the targets that they've taken out militarily. But for me, I don't know if I could do that. And the reason why is because maybe they did have nuclear targets still that they didn't clean up in June or in summertime when we supposedly hit them. So if I'm operating under the assumption that the summer strike took out anything, right, then I would preemptively have taken control of that strait. Now, maybe that's not possible without boots on the ground. I don't know.
Sure.
Right? But that would have been my number one priority, would have been to take control of that strait. But then also at the same time, I don't know if that's possible because then it would be seen as an invasion. And we don't want to be seen as an invasion because then we're imperializing Iran. And that's a whole other thing. But I think that we should have gone in there and taken control over that strait under the guise of international right of passage to protect international waters, because what Iran is essentially doing is blocking international waters. So I think that's exactly the reason why another country just sent a destroyer. I think it was Italy. I think it might have been Italy. I don't know who it was, but some country in NATO, I think, sent a destroyer. And I know France sent their only aircraft carrier.
Okay.
The De Gaulle. Right? Okay. It's the De Gaulle. But yeah, to segue out into your next point, Len, which is great if you want to, unless you want to stay here.
No, I think we've beaten this horse enough, man. But I would just say, if I were the president, I would have taken more of a diplomatic approach, because the issue is that I'm going with the assumption that I came in under the same conditions as President Trump came in. So I'm
right.
From that
exactly.
And I ran on this idea of no new wars. I'm going to be the president of peace. So let's say, for example, I got real intelligence that Iran was actually enriching their nuclear arsenal. So I would provide some evidence to the regime and say, look, we have credible evidence that you're enriching uranium here. These are the different pieces of evidence that we have. So now that I know that you're actually enriching uranium despite what you've said. So then I say, okay, look, we can do this the diplomatic way, or we can do this the kinetic way. And so my offer, my olive branch is to say, look, we need to have a branch that provides oversight. We need to see all of your nuclear facilities, and we need to make sure that we have a body that has the military power to take steps if necessary. While we don't want that to happen, so as long as you're not enriching any uranium, then we're all good. And so, because before, it's essentially putting in place the diplomatic process that Obama had, but make sure that it has teeth, make sure that it's enforceable. And then from there, if they decided to violate it, then I would say, look, I would be very public about this. Say, look, I ran on the idea of running as a president of peace, and that's the outcome. However, we cannot allow Iran to have enriched uranium, because that could mean the death of Israel. That could mean the death of the United States, because these are the two countries that they've specifically said death to America. And because of that, we can't have that. And any rational country would understand with credible information that taking steps to preserve our lives is a rational one, and that wouldn't be a hard sell. So I would go in diplomatically, and then if they violated it, not meaning they built, you can't build a nuclear weapon without anybody knowing. Like, we knew what North Korea was doing, so it isn't like they could build it and then fire it. So because of that, and also the Khomeini, before he was killed, he actually had a record of not wanting to utilize nuclear bombs. At least that's what the idea was. Now, his son, on the other hand, was very, very different. And so we don't know if he's alive or he's not. But if I were the president, I would have taken a more diplomatic approach, and I would have been open with it, but understanding that, hey, if they decide to show their hand and pursue nuclear weaponry, then we have to go in and do what we have to do to take them out. But I wouldn't have jumped the gun to do that, because there's no credible evidence to show that it was above 60%. Now, I want to be very clear, Chris. I am not saying that they weren't taking steps to enrich uranium to put themselves in a position to have a nuclear bomb, because if I'm them, now I'm going to take myself out of it. If I were them, I want to get a nuclear weapon yesterday, because I want to make sure that I have enough credible danger to impose on anybody that wanted to come and do bad things to my land. So that's how I look at it. But I think diplomacy is always the better route.
I agree with you on the diplomacy thing. I just don't think after 30 years diplomacy wasn't tried. That's
there hasn't been any, like, Iran hasn't done anything to us, not directly. They haven't.
But they're the largest sponsor of terrorism. We all know it. We all know that the terrorism indirectly goes through there.
But if in this hypothetical, we were the presidents that are running on America first, what they do to the rest of the world and what's happened to the rest of the world from an America first perspective, that doesn't carry the same weight, and they haven't shown any specific evidence of that.
Then why would they need to make a nuclear weapon then?
Allegedly.
But the UN inspector said that they were enriching beyond civilian needs. UN inspector said that. So that violated the Obama treaty. But here's the thing that scares me more about it, Len. Okay. Here's the thing that scares me more about it. And I'm actually glad that they went in there and did this, because you see this stuff happening right now. By the way, the cruise ship, like, I'm not making light of it, but like, the cruise ship that got stuck, it's stuck off of, they haven't poured it off of an island with the Hanta virus.
The Canary Islands?
It's on the Canary. Is it still on the Canary Islands? Are they still out there? Right? It's still quarantined. Right? Mm-hmm. So here's the thing that scares me the most. And now it's like, how many states? 4 states? There's 3 or 4 states now that have confirmations of the Hanta virus in the United States.
California, Arizona, Texas, West Virginia. I think there's 6, but close enough.
Because one of the people that was on that boat, one of the passengers on that boat, got off the boat and died in an airport. Right?
I hear that.
Yeah. And they died in an airport getting off the boat. Right? So that's what I've heard. And I think that was last week. And some people are calling it hantavirus, but some other, you've heard that it's the Andes virus. It could be like the Andes virus from the Andes, which is where the boat came from, which is not the Andes, but it's from Chile or something like that, or Argentina. It comes from the Andes Mountains of Chile. From all my Chileans out there, Chile, saying it right. Here's the thing that concerns me the most is that kind of stuff, is bioweapons like that. And I don't think Iran really, I mean, yeah, they want to make, like, building a nuclear weapon, I think is just so old school, right? In the world of terrorist activities or the world of mass murder, death, kill. Whereas that kind of stuff scares me. And you see it happening right now, right? And the CDC and all these guys have responded, and they're monitoring it, they're looking at it, because this is a big freaking deal, or it's turning into a big deal. So that's what scares me more is countries that are unhinged like Iran using real chemical warfare. I'm not talking about sarin gas and stuff like that, like infectious disease chemical warfare, like hantavirus, stuff like this, because this is pretty weird. Like today, I was like, we got to talk about this today. This is absolutely bonkers. This is nuts, because it's a little weird, because now it's here in the United States. So how is this happening right now? And it's making a resurgence. We haven't heard about that stuff in a long time. And it's the same classification as Ebola or something like that. It's monitored under the same team or something like that. So that's what scares me more so than the nuclear stuff, because I think everybody knows that when the nuclear stuff happens, everybody's gone.
Right. I think it's important to, as we shift gears to talk about the hantavirus, it's really, really important to understand that the hantavirus is not the coronavirus. And because the way the hantavirus is spread is typically through rodent droppings. And so then once a person's been exposed to rodent droppings, they can spread it to someone else, but there typically has to be prolonged engagement and activity. It
has to be intimate.
Yeah, in a tight space. And so, unless you're a family living under the same household or on a ship in the same cabin, the likelihood that it goes from one person to another just through casual interaction is pretty small. And so I think that it's important for us as a global society to realize that this isn't another pandemic that's coming down the pike. It's not something that we'll even be talking about 3-4 weeks ago. Of course, we definitely don't want to make light of it because of those families that have been impacted and all of those things. But I think it's really important to become aware of infectious diseases, like measles has starting to outbreak here in the United States. And you talked about Ebola just now. You talked about warfare with regard to, germ warfare and biological warfare. I think we need to, as a country and as a global citizenry, we need to become educated about how these things spread, and then also to what degree of fear we should have that's healthy, on the one hand, to the other extreme, which is having, an extreme overreaction to something that we shouldn't be concerned about. So I don't want to belittle your point, though. I do want to underscore your point, which is I'm scared to death of the idea of biological warfare. If there's some type of virus that's able to be shot in the air and spawned, and the only thing that I think that gives people pause to that is that the winds can shift back in your direction and you end up causing your own demise. So I think, and that's one of the reasons why those international treaties were created, where the countries collectively said that, one, we're going to make a concerted effort not to destroy the planet through nuclear war, or that we are going to destroy the planet through biological warfare. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to operate under those same set of rules, but for the most part, that's the social contract that leaders of the world have collectively decided to enter into with each other. And so far it's been good, but that doesn't mean that it's going to continue that way, but nor does it mean that somebody is, sitting in a back room waiting for the opportunity to, unleash a virus on the world. Where's your mind on the hantavirus and everything that's going on with that?
I think that this just shows the importance of having proper borders. I mean, measles was eradicated how long ago in the United States?
Back in the 60s, but then until recently. So some people,
I'm not surprised.
RFK.
But are you surprised? I'm not surprised that you see measles. It's an obvious symptom of the immigration policies that the United States has had for the last few years. You're letting, think about it. You're letting hundreds of thousands of people in from migrants, right? Undocumented migrants, into this country that probably have measles or are carrying diseases that were not eliminated in those host countries. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, come on, think about it, Len. Let's think about it. Nicolas Maduro wasn't exactly making sure all his Venezuelans were vaccinated and healthy. I'm sure he was, but he wasn't making sure they were. I'm sure everybody in Colombia is not making sure. Anything south of the United States border is not 100% tip top. And everybody knows that. You just pick any country down there. So of course it's not surprised to me that you see this kind of stuff. And I know you can look at it and go, "Oh, Chris, you're just so mean about it," but it's not. It's numbers.
I think you can look and make a logical.
How could you say it? Because think about it.
I'll tell you specifically.
How could you
measles? It's easy.
How can you have measles in the United States if everybody's vaccinated?
Okay, RFK comes into office. Now, I don't know this is to be true, but I'm giving you another argument to counter your argument.
Yeah, sure. I'm open to hearing it.
RFK gets in. He's appointed as, the person who's doing his job with the White House. And he has this anti-vaccination perspective. People lose belief that vaccinations are important. Fewer people are getting vaccinated now. It's documented that there's a smaller percentage now, albeit it's still over 90% of people who do get vaccinated, but fewer and fewer people are getting vaccinated because there's a lack of trust in the whole efficacy of getting vaccinated. So fewer people get vaccinated, more people are going to get different types of diseases. So there is a correlation between the policies that RFK has enacted and a decrease in vaccination. And there's a correlation between a decrease in vaccinations and an increase in measles. Now, to say that one causes the other, I think is reckless because it's not conclusive. And that's the same argument that I would give to the immigrant argument. Yes, there are, because here's the thing. If we go based on your perspective, I would say that there's a counter argument to that, which is this. On the one hand, we argue the fact that Trump drove down the numbers of immigrants. There's been fewer immigrants coming to this country than just about any other time because his immigration policy has been very effective. So if measles are going up and immigration is going down, there's not a causal relationship there. So
but there's lag. There's lag in data. There's lag.
You can justify it and say that, but I'm saying like, with RFK and the measles and his vaccination stance, there's at least causality there. And so
not that fast. There's no way that if that's the case, they all need to be in Congress and Senate right now. You're telling me that policy went that fast down into they need to come to California, Len.
Okay.
But Chris, it's taken 20 years to even argue about how much the budget is for a train there to get people to have measles outbreak in 14 months, because if an anti-vax stance, there's still people getting vaccinated. That's because you dumped in 500 million more people that are from countries that don't have vaccines to begin with.
But Chris, okay, your argument loses weight only because measles isn't something that has like a year-long incubation period. Right? Like I can understand if
there's no way it has to do with the fact how old are these people getting measles? If I find out that these people that are getting measles are not infant children, Len, you're in big trouble, bro. Thank God. I was 15 years old and I was never vaccinated, and I got it all of a sudden because Eduardo that came to live with me.
See, you better stop. Hey, that's not me. You check him. Man, if our audience was huge, you'd get killed, and you should, because I was wrong.
But it's true. It's a true scenario. So why would you tell me it's not? Is not the way it happens? It's not it's not, but that's not how it happens.
There's no causal relationship. So like you're making the argument. So
but it's a scientific theory. It's a theory nonetheless, is it not? I mean, Munn would go to that data set first. If we have an influx, in the population from areas that are not as tidy as we are with the vaccination schedules, I'm sure that that's a very good way to start if I'm a detective.
I would buy that argument more for what is it when you, oh my gosh, there's an incubation period of 72 hours. TB, tuberculosis. Now, if you made that argument for tuberculosis, I would be with you, because there are countries that are hotbeds for tuberculosis, but measles is not one of those diseases that exist everywhere else except for the United States. Measles, by and large, have been eradicated worldwide, and so you make the argument that because there was an influx of immigrants under previous administrations, but now all of a sudden measles start to break out. Dude, stop it, Chris. There's more causality with the reduction in vaccinations.
Not too fast,
bro. No, it's not
too fast. Too fast. How does that happen that fast?
So we'll have to publish some numbers to find out if we have.
We're gonna find the numbers on this, Len, and I promise you, like,
I bet you kids that weren't vaccinated. I bet you it is. That's
you think so? You think it's that?
Okay. I do.
So where do they get it then from? If everyone else is vaccinated, where are they getting it from then?
I think I'm certainly not a doctor and I'm not qualified to give an answer. So my suggestion is that, okay, if I'm more prone to different types of diseases that come into my body, and I don't have the immune system or whatever to fight it off, my T cells aren't, numerous enough to get rid of it. They got to come from somewhere. But typically, if you're vaccinated or you have a really good immune system or both, then your body fights it off. Our bodies are being bombarded all the time with different diseases and germs and all of those things. So
I remember when I was growing up a kid, people would always say, if human beings were reinvented today, you'd have 5 livers. So I know everybody was trying to pray over at the Democratic National place where they all hang out, like is that at the DNC headquarters? Is that what they call it? The DNC headquarters?
I don't know.
I think it's just so funny. But I know they were over there probably trying to celebrate their early win because they were trying to tinker with the voting maps. But it seems like it's always unraveling for these guys.
Do it. You act like they were the first. It was your president.
Who was the first to do it?
Donald Trump, Texas. That's
no.
Yes, it was.
No.
Train, as you're editing, bro, you put it up there. Who was the first to start tinkering?
Who was the first? So as the Democrats continue to tinker with their maps and they got struck down, I'm just excited at the fact that you're going to see real districts that are not going to be gerrymandered districts. Because you can't use ethnicity anymore, because you can't. The Supreme Court struck it down, Len. So you're saying the Supreme Court is not like I don't understand what you're trying to say here. This was a Supreme Court decision. And then furthermore, the Virginia State Supreme Court said no to the voting or to the districting thing that they redistrict, which was a vote in, right? Which was voted in. And they're going to go, I'm going to take this to the United States Supreme Court. Well, if they take it to the United States Supreme Court, we already know how they sided with this stuff. So guess what's next? California I would not be surprised if you see that whole law, that prop that California did, be undone. I don't think you guys are going to have a net. I think you guys are going to have a loss of seats.
Who's you?
Not you guys. Not you guys meaning you.
Okay.
You guys are going to see that loss, meaning the Democrats are going to see a loss of seats, and I think Republicans are going to see a nice healthy gain.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt. No, there is an opportunity for the Republicans to gain. I think they've said around 8 seats in the Senate. So, or is it the House or Senate? I don't remember. So, but 8 seats. So if they're getting 8 seats, here's the thing, Chris. What you're saying is that the people are going to redistrict based on getting votes for their party. Both groups are both guilty. And because both guilty of redistricting, there needs to be some type of federal law and federal process to make sure that everything's fair all the way around. So what do I mean by that? Well, it should be a law where every 10 years, based on the census, you get together, you have an independent body that's outside that doesn't have any political gain. And
they had that in California, by the way, to draw the district maps. And then they overruled it.
Because Donald Trump went after Texas to get those 5 seats redistricted. You know that, Chris. You know that. That's exactly what happened.
No.
Okay, please tell me what your version of that story is.
Yeah, maybe they did do it that way.
Donald, yes.
But it's not Donald Trump's fault. He doesn't have control over that. Like, he doesn't have control over that.
Influence, Chris. So
I get it, but why was it?
I'll tell you. So Donald Trump saw the fact that he's losing popularity and the Republicans are going to lose seats because of his popularity. Him being the narcissist that he is, he reached out to Abbott and said, hey, why don't you redistrict Texas so we can gain 5 seats? And so he did that. Governor Abbott did that. And he's a popular governor. And so plus it was
why.
It was also, no, he's been a good fiscal governor, no doubt about that. So, but here's the point is that once Gavin Newsom saw them do that, he said, you know what? I've realized that I'm going to fight fire with fire. And so I'm going to go and we're going to call it Proposition 50 and we're going to go out.
So 2 wrongs make a right.
No, they don't.
This case.
They don't. But here's the thing. If there's one side in politics that's playing dirty and you play clean and you get mopped across the floor and you start losing your power, at what point do you keep taking the beatings and say, you know what, let me fight back? Now, I'm not saying that that's okay because 2 wrongs don't make a right. But this is the reason, because I voted for Proposition 50 only under the auspices that the change is temporary and that it goes back to the way that it was. Because I don't.
You really think it's going to be temporary then?
I hope
what in
not.
government is temporary. What in government is
I
temporary.
agree with that. I agree.
How
with
could you
that.
even act on the promise of them ever thinking anything?
But what's the alternative, Chris?
And didn't the Texas stuff get returned though? Didn't it get overturned? I thought the Texas stuff got turned back.
No,
I thought it got unturned.
Have been shifted, and so California reacted to the shenanigans. Go check it out. Let's
check it out. Did the Texas remapping?
Yeah, because
okay, so see, the U.S. Supreme Court heard this case and allowed the Texas stuff to go through because it was not considered racial gerrymandering.
I agree.
Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. A lot of the stuff is racial gerrymandering, especially in the South states. So I think
it was before, but Chris.
But I think what happened in California is that set off. I think it was all set off with the chain of reactions. But what happened here is that they are all playing tit for tat with the BS. And I think what's going on here is that they shouldn't have responded because they responded, they got themselves in more of a big issue with it because they're not losing seats. The Republicans aren't losing seats. The Democrats are losing seats because they responded. So I think they put themselves in a trap. So if I'm looking at this from the outside in, I'm going, damn, you guys fell into the trap.
Yeah,
you guys fell into this trap. Donald Trump set the trap for you. And once again, it explains why they resort to violence. That side, their followers resort to violence, Len. There's the data overwhelmingly suggests that left-leaning political beliefs commit most of the political violence. It's documented. It's well documented, Len. It's well documented. Come on. How can you not get with that? It's well documented.
Okay. So I understand your argument about political protests, but that has nothing to do with the redistricting argument. And this is an argument, Chris, about taking seats because you see that you're at a disadvantage. And so the Republicans realize that they're at a disadvantage. And so they're using the system. And this is the issue that I have, Chris. It's not about creating strategy. It's about eroding public trust. We're here to put them in office. They're not there to take office and control everything that happens. They're supposed to be constituents that we put in office. And so when you start redrawing lines and you start messing with the normal flow of things, then you erode the trust that we already are. We're skating on a very thin ice as it relates to trust right now. And all they're doing, both sides, they're taking steps to continue to erode the trust. If you look around at all the different polls, Congress has never had a lower approval rating than they do now. And it's continuing to go down, and they don't care. And that's both sides.
They don't care because they don't have term limits. So I think if anything needs to be done right now, it's is that these guys need freaking term limits. Like, Len, that to me is the biggest thing. But these guys all come out of wacky legislators. I mean, these guys come out of these states and they become weird. It's like, look, I don't know. I think term limits is a very viable solution to a lot of this madness.
And how do you create a law? I
think it has to be a constitutional amendment. I think it needs to be a constitutional amendment. I mean, because think about it, Len.
What's the interest in overturning that?
What's the only way that thing ever term limits would ever have teeth? Is with a constitutional amendment, because it becomes totalitarian.
Right.
But look, I know in wrapping up here, we talked about a lot of things here today, but I think the most exciting thing, and I know I want to throw this in here because I'm becoming a really big fan, and I'm not sure if you're following it or not, but I'm becoming a very big follower right now because to me, it's a phenomenal example of how I believe civics is supposed to work. And that is Spencer Pratt for mayor because of LA, because I think that he is doing exactly what civics are supposed to do. He has a massive cause, the city, all these guys, he's exposing everybody, and the polls, he's surging in the polls, and his opposition, which are just atrocious. I'm not going to say anymore. You know how I feel about those people there in LA, are doing the same old. They're trying to attack him. But I don't know, Len, I think that's right in your backyard. I'd be excited about that because that directly, like, I wish that, like, I don't know how you're not more passionate. Maybe you are. You're not more passionate about that versus congressional seats and congressional mapping, because the city of LA is right down the street from you. Like the county of LA is right down the street from you. And not so much so the fact that LA is right down the street from you, but like that LA used to be like something cool. Like it used to be something that you could be proud of in the United States. And now it's just the cesspool. It's disgusting.
I would say this, that the idea of an outsider coming in to be in government is a great idea. I think here's the challenge. It's very easy to throw pot shots from the outside and be a voice of opposition. I think it's very easy to point out what's wrong with government. I think it's very easy to point fingers at mistakes that people have made, because when those mistakes are real and they're valid, they carry weight. And so I would be much more excited about Spencer Pratt becoming the mayor of Rancho Cucamonga or the mayor of Chino, right? Because it's less consequential. Los Angeles is one of the most consequential cities in the entire world, not much less the United States. I would say I'd put New York as number one, and I would put Los Angeles as number two in terms of its just its gravitational pull with regard to acting and regards to just the economy and commerce and all of that LA represents. So I would be excited about an outsider coming in, but you coming in to a huge operation, it's one thing. It's like this, okay? Let's say, for example, you are running a multinational company, Chris, and your company's worth $1 billion, okay? And your board has been there for 25 years. You're getting ready to retire and you're just done. Like, you're ready to go. So some new whippersnapper's 21 years old. And he's got all of these great ideas, and he presents this perfect plan that's been written by Claude and Chat GPT and Perplexity and Grok all together. And it's beautiful on paper. And they recognize your flaws and they talk about what it is that your company did wrong. But now you say, you know what, man, this guy's got some fresh ideas. It's so refreshing for a 21-year-old to come. Would you let him into your company? Absolutely not. You wouldn't. Because why? He's not an operator. He doesn't know what he's doing to run your company. So while it's great, I would love to have him come in and be an intern. I would love to have him go do a startup somewhere else, and get some experience, then come back once you've got some notches on your belt. But until then, young whippersnapper, you can't bite off Los Angeles, bro. Like, that's just too big. So I am with you because I am very much a non-establishment kind of a person. I'm attracted to the little guy, but I'm also a pragmatic thinker as it relates to execution. Anybody can talk about the fact that the homeless is a problem, but it's another thing to come and actually take care of it. And so just before, I turn it over to you, because I know, Karen Bass was not good with the fires. She's been terrible with homelessness because they've spent close to $1 billion, and it's only homelessness has gone down by, like, some say 7%, some say 3%, but there's nothing that suggests that it's gone down more than 10%. There's 43,000 homeless people in Los Angeles alone. So here's what I would say that would need to be done, which Karen Bass has not done. So I want you to know that I'm not her supporter. So what happened is when she came in the office, they had these different programs where they bought hotels that were, dilapidated and unused, and they used those to become homeless facilities. Homeless people move in, but now you've got this problem because you have families and drugs, drug users and people that have mental health, and they didn't separate the different populations. That's a mistake. I can speak from experience because my father's been working with the homeless for the past 30 years. So I understand these issues very, very intimately because I've seen them happen. When you mix populations with each other, it's not going to work. So it's one thing to have a policy to reduce homelessness. It's another thing to have policies that create accountability systems for the institutions that come in and claim that they're going to reduce homelessness. There should be public reports about how homelessness was reduced. Who are those individuals? There should be contact tracing for them. What's their story? How were they homeless? Are they mentally, ill? Were they chronic homeless? Are they drug users? Are they, new families? Are they elderly? Are they, do they have not mental health challenges, but psychological and, cognitive challenges? Those are all different categories. Those populations should be together. She didn't take any of that into account. And so because of that, there was gross mismanagement of the execution of reducing homelessness. And so even though that was her platform, she didn't do a good job as an operator to make those things go away. And unless somebody comes in with some specific operational talent and organizational effectiveness as an operator, that problem's not going to go away. Because I'll tell you this, if I lived in Minnesota or Michigan or, anywhere that's north and cold, two places I'm going to go. I'm going to go to California or I'm going to go to Florida. And I'll probably go to California because I know it's more of a sanctuary city for a person who'd want to be homeless. Even though I'm in California, that's just the truth. They're not going to go for that much in Florida.
So I guess all of that experience doesn't matter then.
What experience? Oh, no. A political experience and operational experience are different. That's the problem.
I see. Here's the thing, though. I don't think that matters as much, because then if that mattered as much, people would love Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's a great operator. I mean, clearly he's an operator. He creates market value, right? I mean, say what you want to say. I don't care what you want to say about Trump. He is a multi-billionaire.
Sure.
He's been a multi-billionaire, and he's been a multi-billionaire for, I don't know, 30 decades or 3 or 4 decades now, right? Which means that he's been able to survive all different types of things, which means he's a good operator. I don't think any of that matters at that level, because I think what's going to happen is that it just takes the right leader that cares about the actual city and cares about the actual environment, and it cares, like you said, it's very consequential. LA is very consequential. So in that case, if it's so consequential and is so important, what has any of the incumbent leadership done that has demonstrated their worthiness and to stay there? Because the data and the statistics has shown you that the city's gotten worse since they've taken over. So the fact that Spencer Pratt doesn't have any experience in whatever is better so far than what we're getting. Because the people that do have experience that are supposed to be there to have all these, whenever I hear that's what scares me, Len, is whenever I hear the word program, come sign up for my program, my new program. That just means more waste. That just means, let's figure out more problems for us to solve so we have jobs. That's really all there is to it. I think a guy like Spencer Pratt forces all of the people that are in there right now that get their jobs without merit. DEI is a lot of them now, not as much as they used to be, but there's a lot of jobs that are still there without merit in the government positions. I think Spencer Pratt forces a lot of those people that are there without merit to go away, and then opens up those markets for people who are qualified, I think, to come in there who really give a damn about actually making the city work, rather than just making the city work for certain small minority groups of people who have these ideals. Right? Because what seems to be happening is that California does look like it's turning into a third world communist city, which is really, it does. It's a war zone. And that's because the leadership is allowing it to. And yeah, somebody needs to come in there and take accountability. And what's interesting about it is you do say accountability, Len, but nobody that's currently in power right now wants to take any accountability for what's going on there. They just want to blame everyone else. They don't want to take any accountability for it. And then you see Dr. Oz. I don't know if you saw that, Dr. Oz, right? He's like, I don't know what position he fills, but he was in the streets of LA and they were doing those busts, like those DEA busts in the streets. And then you see it and you're like going, oh, wow, this is what effective high level political appointees do. They actually go out and do the work instead of lying about it or doing parades. Well, and that's kind of what a lot of those people have done. So,
I don't think you're arguing anything against what I'm saying. So
I'm not at all. I see your point, but I don't see how it holds. I don't see how I see your exact point, but I don't see how these guys I don't see how there's justification. I don't see how you don't justify. I guess my point is that I don't see how you don't justify Spencer Pratt versus, and maybe I can ask you this. How do you justify Karen Bass over Spencer Pratt?
I already told you that I didn't justify her.
Right. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But as of right now,
what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying.
Would you keep her or would you let Spencer Pratt get elected?
Okay. So
what poison would you pick right now, knowing what you know?
What I would say is that if I were a citizen in Los Angeles, I would be very torn. And it's choosing between the known versus the known unknown. I would probably lean more towards, I would definitely vet him. I would definitely attend different debates or something like that. You know, because if I lived in LA, I would certainly be an active citizen understanding the consequences of this particular election cycle. And so I would definitely do all of my homework. And if I came to the conclusion that he would be the better candidate, I'd vote for him. I would absolutely vote for him. And if it turns out that Karen Bass or even the other lady that's running, I want to say her name is like Prithvi or something like that.
It's the council rep, right?
Yeah,
city council.
Yeah. So I would vote.
She has
for her.
no chance of making it, by the way.
She won't. But here's the point is that for me, I vote based on policies. I vote based on what I believe that person that's elected can and should do for me. And regardless of what party they are in, or regardless of any other descriptors, I vote based on policies. So, again, I know that on all sides, I probably have enemies in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party because I don't trust any of it.
When do you think Americans will start trusting it? Because we talked about this on the last episode. The congressional support or congressional faith is so low right now. And you and I agree on this very heavily. I think it's just disgusting the way a lot of these guys conduct business because they're both on it. But when do you do you ever see it changing again? I don't ever see it changing again. I don't have
any faith in it, man.
I don't see it ever. So that's the problem though, Len. Where do you go? Like, how do you go down that boat? Like, I don't see it changing. I don't have any faith in it. Because that doesn't leave you with a nice sense of, okay, where's this going?
Yeah.
Where are we going with this? How does this progress? It doesn't say that. You know what I mean? You can't answer. You can't leave a question unanswered like that. But then at the same time, how do you answer it?
Exactly, because it's between a rock and a hard place. Because on the one hand, you just throw your hands up and say, "I can't do anything," or you start trying to, and then the matrix just sucks you in and spits you out, and so it almost feels like a no-win situation. But
I have the solution.
The best way to approach it to me is to find younger people, because I'm getting up in age, man, where the level of time that I have to dedicate to, advancing things, that's just I'm not in that space anymore. I would say I would want to influence the younger generation and find a group of like-minded people and get them to understand how to engage civically to get elected to office. But the problem for them is they're disillusioned right now too, because they're not doing so well. Their prices are high. The ability to get what was sold as the American dream before, which is home ownership. I'm not saying that is the American dream, but that's what is a real strong position that someone would have from a middle class mindset, is to be able to have a house and to be able to have security. And they don't have that. So you said you had a solution. I'm very interested to hear what that is. Well, I think you're being sarcastic.
No. I mean, the sarcastic response would be just make more money. I mean, but that's not a solution for everybody.
No,
because you're not there yet. Maybe you're probably not there yet. But I think the solution that realistically is that you're right. We need to get people more engaged again and less distracted, right? And I think it starts in the home. So a lot of parents need to be more responsible for their kids, and they need to be proactive about what their kids are learning, how their kids are reacting in the world, all the way down to the simplest thing as making sure your kids know how to take care of themselves when they come to you and they say you're bored. Right? Like when they go, I'm bored, Mom, I'm bored, Dad, I'm bored. If you could from the jump teach your kids how to teach your kids how to deal with that challenge in their life. And that's the problem is that parents, we need to do a better job of empowering our kids so that they go out in the world and they know how to get involved. Because look, the fact is that if Spencer Pratt's house would not have burned down in Pacific Palisades, he would have given no crap about going out there and running for mayor.
Sure.
But because he was personally impacted, it came so far home to him that he went, wait a minute. And that's what made him go out there and make his campaign a reality, because he got so sick and tired. Because really, a lot of people are sick and tired of it. But at any rate,
that's the challenge that concerns me, which is if people get too sick and tired of anything, it's just a matter of time before they revolt. That's just human nature. And if I have a voice and I don't feel that it's heard and it continues to happen that way, then I'm going to act out in a way that I am heard. So that you call that violence, I call that protest.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing, because Donald Trump knows that he has to eliminate malcontent amongst the large groups of people in America. And the largest group of people in America that have malcontent are the doers. They're the people that are in that section that have done what they were supposed to do. They did what they're doing, and they're getting screwed by the system. And they're seeing people that aren't doing what they're supposed to do and getting rewarded for it. They're seeing politicians get rich. They're seeing their governments hose them. And that's what creates malcontent. And that type of malcontent is what creates civil wars. And see, that's where the rest of the world gets angry at America, because the rest of the world's been going through civil war since they've been around, and America's never had it. It's only had one civil war. And that civil war was to end one of the biggest problems in human history, not American history, human history, and then that which is obviously slavery, because I know there's a lot of people then that like to say slavery is an American thing, and we all clearly know that it wasn't an American thing. Slavery's been around since the beginning of time, right? It's a human thing. It's a human problem. But America obviously had a civil war over that. Has any other country had a civil war over things like that? I mean, obviously civil wars over a lot of things. That's pretty profound, isn't it? I mean, that's a pretty profound thing to have a civil war over, I think, anyways. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say slavery was a major component of the Civil War. When you look at the economic prosperity that slavery brought to the Southern planters, they were fighting. They were fighting for that, and so
they were fighting for economic, prowess as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But you can't have economic prowess on the back of somebody else on the back of somebody else's willful labor. So that in itself is born into the American roots of our virtues, right? Of our I say it all the time. You know what I'm talking about. Who virtues and whose virtues do you want to govern the world? American virtues or the virtues of Russia and in the ideals of that country? So not to say they're not good, but history has shown that they're not, right? So, or has history shown that it's not. So you get what I'm saying, Len. We've talked about it.
I do. Yeah. So, I would say in closing is that if you're watching this and you're under the age of 30 years old, I would do everything that I could to learn as much as possible about the government structures, how they work, and what you as a citizen collectively with other friends and the opportunity to create influence now is unprecedented. And so if you have the ability to speak to other people in a way that's influential, use your voice and learn how to exert power and authority so that you can take your country back and see a country that you want to live in. Because without you, because if you're under 30, you're one of the largest populations. You're going to be the one that's running the government. You're going to be the one that's controlling policy, and your vote is going to count because numerically, it's just a matter of time before you're the one controlling everything. So if this is a world that you don't want to see, start doing something about it right now.
And have a library. And when I have a library, you got to read. The secrets of the world are in books.
Absolutely. But the lies are buried.
Yes, they are. Well, Len, always a pleasure. With that being said, guys, if you like the content, like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Len, have a phenomenal week.
All right. Have a good one.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.